Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the Coach, from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
Welcome to an all-new episode of The Payoff. I'm Tom. That's Jeff. Dude, we got DX and Legacy and a Hell in a Cell. Sign me up for this, man. I'm pumped.
Yeah, I don't remember this at all. So I'm pumped for this. Yeah.
15 years ago, man.
I try not to think about that too much anymore. Like, it's crazy to think, like, especially the Cody Rhodes trip of 15 years ago, some of this stuff, and also where, like, you know, Shawn Michaels has hair. Look at that. Yeah, just crazy.
I like forget about Cody being in. I don't know, man. We'll talk more about that. But I always forget about, like, this whole era.
Yep.
How'd you pick this? Why'd you pick it?
Yeah, it was Cody was a big part of this. Like, we had not covered. I will eventually get a Stardust match, even though he may not like it. But this is one I wanted to talk Cody and kind of see some of this early stuff. You know, we've had some of it before, but especially I wanted to see how he was in the ring against Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Mm-hmm. Obviously, these guys, like, don't crucify me, but, like, past their prime on this one. And so I'm interested just to see kind of how they hold up, kind of, what does he look like in the ring versus what we see nowadays? Like, I'm just interested to see how it plays out. Yep.
Good, man. All right, let's get right into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
So this card, man, is really something. This is the first Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, right? So we've done plenty of Hell in a Cell matches. This is the first themed pay-per-view with Hell in a Cell. October 4th, 2009, we're in Newark, New Jersey at the Prudential Center. We have 12,000 in attendance. We do a buy rate on pay-per-view of 283,000. So here's the deal. This had 3 Hell in a Cell matches on the show. Now, they did kind of a beginning, middle, and end to break them up. But we start off the show with The Undertaker defeating CM Punk in a 10-minute Hell in a Cell match. No Hell in a Cell match should be 10 minutes.
Yep.
We changed the title there. I don't know. I mean, maybe it was an awesome match, but just
it wasn't.
So then, okay. So John Morrison is going to defeat Dolph Ziggler to retain the IC title. That goes 5 minutes longer than the Hell in a Cell match before it.
Yep.
Divas Championship, Mickie James defeats Alicia Fox to keep her title in 5 minutes. Jericho, Chris Jericho and Big Show, retain the tag team titles against Batista and Rey Mysterio in 13 minutes.
One of the better matches on this card. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to flip-flop another title. Randy Orton's going to win the WWE Championship in 21 minutes against John Cena in a Hell in a Cell match. Drew McIntyre is going to defeat R-Truth in 4 minutes. Kofi Kingston's going to retain the U.S. Championship by defeating The Miz and Jack Swagger. And then the main event we're going to cover. So, I mean, just look at this card. You got 8 matches, 3 of which are Hell in a Cell. You know, Triple H's 5 pay-per-view matches ain't looking so bad right now, huh?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So it just seems like a better way to. Yeah, it just seems like a better way to do it. So, and we can certainly talk more about that. All right,
absolutely.
DX Legacy being represented by Cody and Ted DiBiase Jr. How do we get to this match? Why were these two entangled in a feud?
Yeah, so I'll start with actually what is the Legacy, because we've never talked about them before. And so the concept was that each member was best way to describe it was a family of wrestlers, was a multi-generational wrestler. And so that was the Legacy, referring to their family histories in wrestling. And so you had the leader of the group, Randy Orton. I talked a lot about him last week. With the tag team of Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase, obviously long family lines there. There was for a while there too. There was also Manu, who was one of the NOA brothers, and then who is it? Sim Snuka as well too, who was part of it as well. So you had they get into the Samoan family and stuff like that is part of this stable, but they weren't in there as long. Everybody really knows it as Orton, Rhodes, and DiBiase. So, but focusing on the match here, it was Triple H actually rejoining Raw. You had Michaels. He took a hiatus from WWE after losing to The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25, which was April. We eventually get to this match in October, so to kind of lay out the timeline a little bit here. You did have Triple H in a rivalry with Randy Orton in a Legacy at this point, really kind of carrying them through the summer, and then Triple H taking on Orton over the WWE Championship. And so you had Triple H being the target of the Legacy because they were responsible for the losses against Orton during the matches. And so it was actually after a handicap match, losing that match to the Legacy, Triple H stated that as we always do, he's going to make a phone call to see what happens here. And so this is, of course, as we know, recently we've seen pictures of him too in the chef hat. This is Triple H meeting Shawn Michaels in the office cafeteria down in Texas. He was working as the chef. And so eventually, though, Triple H would convince Michaels to come back to WWE. It was a fun segment. Kind of go back, watch it if you have time. And so a little bit there, a lot of different segments, kind of video type stuff, as DX, known for. It was actually Michaels teaming with Triple H to face the Legacy at SummerSlam, and doing that. And so it was actually their first match back, that SummerSlam match, which they won. The Generation X did. At Breaking Point, the next pay-per-view, they lost to the Legacy. That was actually the first ever submissions count anywhere match in WWE. Weird to think that was 2009 Breaking Point. That's what that one's known for. And then the following month, that's how we get to this Hell in a Cell. So they've had a couple matches, obviously SummerSlam, Breaking Point. Then we get to this Hell in the Cell pay-per-view, taking on DX and the Legacy. And so it started as Orton and Triple H. They're recruiting Shawn Michaels after the numbers game here. And then so now we've got them taking on the tag portion of the Legacy, Triple H and Shawn Michaels versus Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase Jr.
There you go.
Makes sense.
We got a lot to talk about. I'm excited for this match. It's a big deal that, considering everything else on this card, this is what they main evented with. So sure, it's going to be a hell of a match.
Yep, absolutely. I'm ready if you are.
2 hour, 25-minute mark. Are you ready?
Break it down.
Time for the payoff.
Ho! It's time for the payoff.
The Heartbreak Kids. Hey! Legacy! DiBiase rolls,
getting attacked right out of the gate.
From behind. And perhaps another example
I like that.
Of what we've been talking about all along.
Yeah.
How Legacy seems to be one step.
So you don't want to do that all the time, but the occasional, there's just little things like this, right? Where the one guy the heels attack the baby faces. You could have done it either way around. Like if it's a heated rivalry, it's good reason to do that. Gets them outside the cage. Considering you did 3 Hell in a Cell matches, you have to do some variety, on the cages. I'm guessing maybe the first 2 matches were all inside the cages, so that's good.
Just mix
I also like sometimes when, if it's a big rivalry, I like when people change up their entrances and don't do their normal stuff, but just like walk to the ring, walk pissed off. So, all right. So yeah, this is the end of Shawn's career then. This is, he loses the first one to Taker, and then Triple H kind of convinces him to come back. and then, limited run, and then that's it. But yeah, selfishly, I would have liked to have seen him wrestle longer, but
Of course, yeah.
He hung it up. A part-time attraction would have been kind of fun a couple times a year. I feel like he still could have been Mr. WrestleMania, for another 4 or 5 years, just done the Undertaker thing,
I feel like nowadays, though, like he is incredibly content doing what he's doing with NXT.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that. In retrospect, okay, so this in 2009, fast forwarding now to 2024, could we ever have really like that? Like, he is literally training the next generation of wrestlers. Has been, he is teaching them what to do. And I think even more so than Triple H. Well, Triple H, that was NXT was really his baby. Shawn Michaels has taken it to the next level, and not to not credit some of the other people that are down there too. Like you and I know, Triple H and Shawn Michaels are Shawn Michaels now the face of NXT, but Matt Bloom is he is out there working just as much, training some of these people in the ring, and he doesn't get the credit maybe he deserves sometimes too. But it's interesting because I don't know if you heard recently that they were talking a lot. It was the AEW argument, and we say it sometimes too, of all of the Performance Center, they're training everybody the same way. You don't, everyone's going to look the same, but the reality is more and more lately, they don't. Everyone, maybe at first when, that was kind of how they're doing, but it has shifted. It is a lot different now from some of the people we're seeing coming out to some of the athletes they're recruiting. It's just it's different. It feels different.
So couple thoughts. First of all, I think for the right person, the training and behind the scenes stuff is going to be more gratifying than what they did in their career. And I think both Triple H and Shawn Michaels are hardwired that way. It's no different than someone that, hey, I had fun playing in the NFL, but being a GM or being an owner is just more gratifying than, the on the field stuff. And I think it's the same for them. And it's hard, unless you really get it, it's hard to understand. It's well, no, isn't being a wrestler has to be better. It's I don't know, man. I bet you Shawn Michaels is a hell of a lot happier and more fulfilled now than he was when he was actually, in the grind. Not that some of those moments weren't great. In terms of everyone kind of looking the same, a couple thoughts. I think first of all, with all due respect to some of the people that ran FCW and NXT and were at the Performance Center, with all due respect to them, I do think that the people there now, led by Shawn Michaels, Shawn's just so creative and we'll get different types of characters and things there. It's not all going to hit, but it's going to be different. I think in the past, everything looked a lot similar because there was less creativity. I just think there's more creativity, which means you're going to have more characters. And obviously characters are what sell and what grows the brand, not everyone looking the same. The other thing too is they're just doing a far better job of recruiting from a much wider base. So, in the past, WWE was completely at the mercy of whoever and whatever was on the indie scenes. So I do think that a lot of indie wrestlers just looked the same and had a very similar presentation. Think about some of the more unique people, like a Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar wasn't wrestling on the indies. Brock Lesnar was recruited into the wrestling business. So yeah, and look, Gable Stevenson didn't work out, right? But you find these athletes, you find these just very attractive, very different looking college athletes. Physically, they certainly can do everything. They have unique looks. You're training them from the ground up. You can mold them into something different than being an indie wrestler with long, greasy black hair, right? So, I mean, you look at a Tiffany Stratton, right? Perfect example. It's just phenomenal. And that's just straight NIL, like initiative, get the college athlete type thing. So now that they're, between having a Shawn Michaels and recruiting from a wider, more diverse base, plus again, remember, they're getting all the international stuff too. So, like a Walter, and, you get these people that just look different because they're, international versus all being American, US, white guys with black hair that are, 6'2", so you get like a Damian Priest, you get a Walter, you get a lot of these, some of the women's wrestlers from other parts of the world. I mean, even a Becky Lynch, like just diverse. And so that's what makes it better. And for so many reasons, you're just going to continue to see so many different types of characters, different looks. And that's what creates the intriguing matchups, right? It's, what would it be like if Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn got in there? Hey, what would it be like if Rhea and Liv wrestled? They're just so different. I mean, black and white different, right? So different. And I think that's what's going to be fun for the foreseeable future is how different. I mean, even like looking at like Cody and Ted DiBiase right now, pretty similar, right? Just like bigger guys, short hair, regular tights. I mean, it's not that interesting compared to some of the stuff we're seeing now.
I pulled up, so WWE has a website for recruit WWE, recruit.wwe.com, and they've got their classes of NIL athletes. And I thought it was interesting. So track and field, football, baseball, acrobatics, track and field, wrestling, football, gymnastics, cheerleading, football, wrestling, football, baseball, softball, like tennis, soccer, gymnastics again, like they're pulling people from all over the spectrum, which I think that helps, like, just to have like random open training, like, somewhere you're not going to necessarily get some people you want. I think the NIL stuff definitely opens up a whole new avenue for them of, hey, like, yeah, we're scouting people. We're seeing who's out there, and we're going to see more and more. I forget who it was recently, but said like some of these people have never watched wrestling. They have never stepped foot near a wrestling ring. They have no clue what the ropes feel like. They have no clue like who any of these people are, but then they turn into like Tiffany Stratton, or they turn into, some of these people that, there's a noticeable difference with Jade Cargill and how far she's come since being a part of that system. And I think that speaks to it a lot of like, what happens when you are a part of that and you're getting that training. And I think just being around an atmosphere where it is the focus. Somebody, they sign, someone, and, anymore, it's not like a bad thing to do a little stint in NXT. I feel like, it's a big deal. Like all of a sudden you debut on the main roster without that NXT time. But at the same time, like you need that time. Like you have to get acclimated while we say like their system, because there is a lot to learn, whether it's hard camera side or, just being like looking good out there. But yeah, the future's bright. I think that's my takeaway from a lot of this is like, we're going to see more and more of these people that are coming out and doing these things. But then you get like someone like Cody, who you figure we probably got another solid core 5 years of Cody, then probably another like 5-10 out of him too after that, like, of just being, not necessarily transitional champ, but he is 39 right now. So you figure like we easily got 5 more years of him, doing what he's doing. So yeah, it's a fun time to watch.
So, by the way, of Shawn Michaels just 2-on-1 for seemingly forever now.
Just
Triple H crawling back to the cage. So, and maybe you or folks listening, like this won't surprise them, but like I was a little fuzzy on my Cody Rhodes timeline here. So this is 2009. Okay. He didn't leave WWE for another 7 years.
Yeah, it was a much shorter window than we realized.
Well, I just didn't realize. So, he was around for a while. I mean, he was there for a long time. Like I actually didn't realize how long he was there. I would have, if you just said to me, how long do you think Cody was there in his first stint? Honestly, I would have guessed like 3 or 4 years, and we're talking 7 or 8 years. So that's pretty wild.
Because he was only at AEW for what, 3, 4?
Well, so I have his matches pulled up here. So the last match he did, according to Cage Match, is a battle royal in 2016, and so he was doing that as Stardust. So he's out of there in May. I'm guessing he was on a 90-day. Because he wrestled Zack Sabre Jr. in August of 2016. So he was gone for a little over 3 months. And then, he just goes through that whole indie thing. And I won't name them all, but Chris Hero, Kurt Angle, tag match with Johnny Gargano against Chris Hero and Drew Galloway. Another Kurt Angle match, Matt Riddle, Jay Lethal, Steve Corino, Will Ospreay, Juice Robinson. He's doing all that. Remember, that's 2017. Okay. And then you have, of course, 2018. I mean, ton of indie matches in 2017. He's kind of bouncing all over, a little TNA stuff. 2018. Now we're into Ring of Honor a little bit, and then the All In match would have been 2018, and then a little more ROH stuff. Interestingly enough, ROH, Jericho, Matt and Nick Jackson against Cody, Kenny Omega, and Marty Scurll. That was a 4.5-star match in ROH. That'd be a fun one to watch.
Yep.
And then, May of 2019 was the beginning of AEW. That's kind of the timeline. So there were 3 years. And then, of course, he's only in AEW. That's May of 2019. And then 2 years later, he's, debuting for WWE.
Crazy.
Or I'm sorry, that would have been 2022. Sorry.
Yeah, 22. That's what I thought. Yeah. Yeah.
That he did the Seth Rollins. Yeah. So 22, 23. I mean, it's just, only 3 years into it. So couple thoughts on that. So let's brainstorm a little bit here, because obviously there's a lot of examples of wrestlers that, started with humble beginnings and became megastars, right? I mean, pretty much all of them, Steve Austin, Ringmaster, Rocky Maivia. I mean, we can go down the list, right? I mean, most of them didn't start on top, like Brock Lesnar, who's just always been a main eventer since day one and never wasn't.
Right.
But what I would ask you, though, is find me another example of someone that maybe hit further down but ultimately made it higher up. I mean, Cody Rhodes to me right now is John Cena. Now, John Cena had longevity that no one has ever had and no one probably will have. I mean,
right. Yeah.
So that I'm not comparing them, but in terms of hot, in terms of draw, in terms of merch, Cody's John Cena. And he is just such a massive star. So knowing, like rock bottom, right? Kind of jobbing out as Stardust in 2000 and what did I say? 16?
Yeah.
Okay. To being John Cena 6 years later, 7 years later. Who has done that with that massive of a swing.
Oh yeah.
Like, who was that far down to get that high up? I can't think of anyone. I just can't think of anyone that was, I mean,
like
almost jobbing to being among the biggest stars ever.
Because even if I say like, oh, like fan, like, which this match, like Shawn Michaels just getting the crap kicked out of him, and Triple H can't get in the ring. And he's ran back up the ramp for some reason. We don't know why yet. I would say, I'm going to say Roman, but not because like Roman was never jobbing. Like he was always near the top of the car, but like, was the audience behind him? No, not, for a long time there, but at the same time, like he was getting pushed. He was at the top of the car. And so like that wasn't a thing. So you can't really say him, but like, yeah, that swing and like, and even, someone who openly talks about it as well too. Like I like who is out there? Like you think like there's just so many that, and even if you look at, there's people that they don't, maybe they, Ricochet left, they didn't recognize potential, whatever, but he was never a world champ. Like it just wasn't the case. Like, I don't know. It's hard. Yeah, there isn't. I mean, that's why.
I just can't think of anyone that like was that down and became that good. I mean, Cena was never job. I mean, and again, just it's pretty interesting. So just a wild trajectory, man. Just a wild trajectory. I mean, I guess you could say very similar to Drew, but I don't know if Drew was ever. I mean, I guess 3MB, but with all due respect to Drew, I mean, he's not Cody. I mean, again, Cody's going to finish like. I mean, he's going to peak at like a top 10. I mean, there's not many. I've said this before, Jeff. There's not many guys in the history of the business that move the needle. Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, truly move the needle. Like, I don't really think like, and this pains me to say, but like Randy Savage never really moved the needle. Warrior never really moved the needle. I mean, Hogan was the only one in that era that legitimately, did that. And then after Hogan, Hogan did it in WCW, he did it in WWE. After Hogan, who then moved the needle? Nobody until Steve Austin.
Right.
I mean, Bret Hart didn't move the needle. Shawn Michaels didn't move the needle. Diesel didn't move the needle. Great performers. I know they main evented, but they weren't. I mean, it was just a down era. There's no way to say it. Like, I mean, it wasn't a huge, wave. I mean, after Hogan, there was nothing massive until Steve Austin came along and 98 he gets the title. I mean, even The Rock, I mean, did he move the needle? So you look at those guys. That's what Cody is. I think Brock Lesnar falls in that category. But like there's just not a lot of them. I mean, Undertaker drew money. So, pretty interesting. So that to me is like the best compliment that I can give Cody. Is that and obviously Cena's in that category too. There's just not a lot of them. And I know that like, you talk about your favorites, but your favorites, just because someone had great matches doesn't mean that they, by themselves were able to draw. All right, so Triple H is back in.
Finally found some.
I mean, it felt like forever. Yeah,
that was way too long. Yeah.
You probably had to go out to one of the equipment trucks to find out.
I mean, I wonder if he was hurt because he was gone. I mean, he was gone for
why it took so long.
10 minutes.
Just weird. You can't
so Triple H coming in. He's hot.
Michaels is dead, kind of rolling around. Yep. I guess
if Cody ever goes heel, does he go back to black hair?
Oh boy, that'd be interesting to see. Yeah, good thought.
Right? I mean, do you go like black hair and maybe like sunglasses or something? I mean, you could totally change his look up.
We definitely need the Cody heel run. Like, I get it, like not yet, but it will happen at some
Man,
point.
I don't.
I think
He's selling too much merch.
same thing.
I think he might be in that. I think he might be in that Cena category. I don't know if they can afford to make him a heel. I mean, they can. They can make anyone a heel. But the thing is,
go ahead.
well, I was going to say, the thing is, it's like like if Vince knew how big of a draw Roman was as a heel, I think they would have. I mean, they would have made Roman a heel sooner, but I think that they would have been way more likely to make John Cena a heel. Right? So, like, that's the thing is I think it's always been, hey, heels don't draw money. They're, good foils. But, like, look what Roman Reigns did. Again, another needle mover. But, like, look what Roman Reigns did as a heel. So, now I think you can look at Cody and go, oh gosh, I mean, look how much merch he sells, look how many arenas he packs. But it's like, if he was an incredible heel with a long title reign, it makes sense. I mean, it's just different now. So, John Cena is really the last. I think he's probably the last guy ever that they had to build on. Right? Now, it's an ensemble cast now. Like you can have a PLE without Roman. You can have a PLE. You can have a PLE without anyone. And hell, most of these PLEs don't have 80% of the roster on them, right? Just by nature of the five matches.
Yep.
So, you're getting like 1 or 2 women's matches. You're getting 3 or 4 men's matches, and that's all you're getting. So, I say that because, it's. I don't think that they look at it anymore of like any one guy. And I think Cena was the last of that where, you needed him. Okay, so we're just beating up Cody now.
Yeah, and now you got DiBiase locked on the outside.
Are you kidding? This will snap his neck! Pain sins!
It's not looking good for Cody and DiBiase. DiBiase's locked outside.
Michaels was going to tune the band. It's sledgehammer time. Yep, you got there it is. Triple H grabbing it. Yep, from under the ring.
Another thing I'm interested in here. So, just timeline wise, and you may get into some of this, but this was 2009. So I'm just looking here. Yeah, he had been so after WrestleMania. Yeah, this is the feud that got him back. So you had a couple matches before this, and then we're kind of off and running here. I mean, this is the final stretch of his career.
Cool finish there. We get sweet chin music and the sledgehammer at the same time coming from different corners of the ring. And that's a dub there for DX.
Generation X. Well, it was a war, a hard-fought war. The rumors of DX's demise have been greatly exaggerated.
All right, and with that, just interesting. So like that's what brought Shawn back is this feud. They kind of did this. This was obviously the blow off to it. And then we're in the stretch run here.
Mm-hmm.
We got a few more matches. Shawn and Triple H mostly together as a tag. There was a Shawn Ray match in there, a Shawn Orton match in there, Shawn Jericho one more time, Shawn Kane, and then the last one, Shawn Taker. Yeah. All right.
Interesting.
Okay, let's get to the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
All right, what'd you think?
I don't know. The wrestling was nothing. Like they were telling the story more than they were doing anything in the ring. It was not made to be a wrestling match. Like that's just it wasn't at all. Like I couldn't get out of my head, but there is a one of the reviews I'll read, I think sums it up best, where it says more of an angle than a match. And so, because there just wasn't a whole lot of like wrestling that was happening. It really, I mean, one of the wrestlers on each team spent the whole match outside of the ring, like, or outside of the cage. It just, or the cell, whatever. Sorry. And so, yeah, it just, didn't make a ton of sense. And so, from that perspective, I mean, it was fine. Telling the story was fine, but it was not a good match. It was not one that I would say, hey, go back to watch what the in-ring action, because it just wasn't. So, how about you?
Yeah, I'm very disappointed. I just thought this would be a better match. It was not a good match. And it wasn't a bad match, but yeah, it was a 20-minute angle.
Yeah. Especially to cap off the night. It's weird. But anyways, all right. So DX on this one.
It's a weird show. Weird show.
Yeah. They would go on to challenge John Cena for the WWE Championship. It was a triple threat match, actually, at Survivor Series. Cena winning that one. Even though they lost, they were still able to, were still a tag team. They didn't break up or anything like that. TLC then had DX defeating Jericho to win the tag titles in a TLC match. This in 2009, this TLC tag championship was actually their first tag team championship reign for these two, and so interesting. And having that. The legacy on the flip side, you had it kind of continued being the legacy. You had Orton attacking Roddy Piper, a part of that, and dealing with that. You then ended up with Kofi Kingston kind of making a save. So you ended up at Survivor Series with Team Kofi taking on Team Orton. You had the legacy, William Regal and CM Punk. With Kingston eliminating Punk and then Orton becoming the sole survivor, while Christian eliminating Rhodes and DiBiase earlier. So, excuse me. Oh my goodness. Just interesting. Yeah. Not a ton, it was a weird time in wrestling. So, not a lot happening there. But on the flip side, PWI 2009, going in reverse order here, you had Cody at 48, Ted DiBiase at 44, Shawn Michaels at 14, and Triple H numero uno in 2009. So the torch on this one, like I said, they gave it 2 3/4 stars, which feels like a lot. But it's more of an angle than a match with mostly extended 2-on-1 beatdowns. The Observer on this one, this was the second best match. Close, actually, very close votes here. Orton and Cena got 42 votes. This match got 40 votes. And Jericho and Batista and Mysterio got 39. Very close. So good top of the card, I guess, is the best way to look at it. They actually brawled for several minutes outside the cage before the match started. This was a good storytelling match, like Cena versus Orton at the last show. It didn't quite work as well, but I think a lot of that was because people didn't see this as the main event, and it was the positioning of match issues. Still, people were into this match. Total destruction finish. I mean, blow off city while not airing on the pay-per-view. They ended up taking Rhodes out on a stretcher. All real good as far as a good story for the faces to go over, and they're moving on and challenging for the tag titles. I just wish the company would protect the rising stars as much as the stars who are already over and don't need any protection. They'd have a lot more matches to choose from each month on pay-per-view if they adopted this policy. 3 3/4. So you've got 2 3/4, 3 3/4. Tom, what is your payoff score?
Man, I had this at a 5. It wasn't like horrible. It just wasn't good. It was just like, it was long. I didn't like the storyline angle thing. Like, I don't think a main event of a pay-per-view should be a angle. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, same thing. I'm just 5. Like, just interesting. I just, there just wasn't enough wrestling. So, it was perfectly fine to push the angle, but at the same time, I'm going to watch a wrestler. Like, I would not have been happy if I was there, or like even if we paid $50 and this was the main event. Like, I'm with you. Like, we don't have to kind of shuffle the card and kind of go back and see what could have been. But yeah, it's just I don't know. Yeah, just disappointed. I think you said it. That's the best way to do it. Yep.
Okay, we're on the same page on that one.
Yep. All right.
I fear that next week we have another pay-per-view main event that's an angle.
Yeah, unfortunately, while there was a huge build up to this one, and huge build and aftermath, like the match itself just, oh boy, like, yeah, we'll kind of see what happens and kind of get into it. But yeah, we're doing Kane and Undertaker for that championship. It was In Your House Judgment Day 25.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next week. And as always, we appreciate everyone listening to another episode of The Payoff.